Aubrey wakes up on Saturday the 6th. Um, she was trying to sleep in this morning, but she wakes up at the same ungodly hour that she always wakes up at, which is 6 a.m. 6 a.m. and she looks at her clock. She can't believe it. Oh my god, she thinks, I was trying to sleep in. Why did it have to be the case that I just completely wake up at my normal time? But she's so awake that she does not feel as though she can go back to sleep. She tries to sort of lay down again, but she can't go back to sleep. So she just goes ahead and gets up and deals with the fact that she's being forced to to be awake right now. Oh, she goes out to her farm, and finds that there are some hot peppers. She looks at the hot peppers and she thinks, "Holy crap! Wait a second. I don't actually like spicy foods. Why did I get all of these hot peppers? What am I going to use these hot peppers for?" She wonders, and then she just thinks a little bit. She thinks a little bit harder about the peppers, and she decides, you know what? I can probably hang on to these peppers regardless, because I can probably use them to make some sort of salsa. Maybe I can keep it a little bit mild. She thinks. So, whoops. She takes the peppers and sets them aside with the intention of making some delicious mild salsa. Excellent. And in this time, as she has been pondering the state of her farm and all of that stuff, she builds a new chest, colors it green this time, and decides that in this chest will be all of the equipment, all of the tools that she will ever need in her entire life. All of those tools are just going to go straight into that chest. Perfect. So, in an effort to find some sort of sane sorting system, she also decides, maybe things that I've built that aren't on the ground could also go in there, like this piece of wooden fence. And it looks like there's nothing else. Perfect. Okay. So she, whoops, whoa. She didn't mean to put the fence in there. She meant to put the fence in the green chest, the new one that she just built. Okay, so Aubrey thinks to herself, what am I going to do today? The spirits are feeling neutral today, so that means I do not need to go adventuring. So what should I do, she wonders. I think I will, she goes on, smelt up some iron ore in the furnace, and hopefully that will lead to me being able to create more sprinklers in the future. Excellent, she thinks. And in the meantime, she goes on, I will take these frozen geodes and probably some other geodes, like normal ones. Yeah. Over to Clint and convince him to break them open for me, she thinks. Yes, and while I'm at it, she goes on, I will go over to the area of my farm where there were some geodes like growing on the ground, she goes on, because it's been a while since I harvested those, and there was an earthquake and a change of season since then. And so now, she goes on, it should be the case that something new has occurred in this area. So she goes to the area. She finds that there's a lot of copper geodes on the ground. She mines the copper geodes. She digs up some worms, finds some clay, and a chicken statue. What the fuck is that? She finds a chicken statue. She's like, she sees some worms on the ground, and she pulls out her hoe and she thinks, I wonder if this will be clay, or maybe like some other boring shit, like maybe a lost library book, or something like that. And then, being very pessimistic, she just jabs the hoe into the ground and disturbs the soil, and then presses her whole weight down against the end of the hoe, and then just lifts a section of dirt off of the ground. And underneath that section of dirt, she finds the little yellow beak of a bird statue. And so, looking at the yellow beak, she thinks, what the fuck is that? Why why am I seeing this thing? Why is it shiny and yellow? For instance, she wonders. Um, and after much investigation, she sort of reaches down, picks it up, looks at it, and she realizes, oh, it's a statue of a chicken. And then she decides, you know what? I bet Gunther would love this. And so she takes the chicken statue, along with 5 frozen geodes and 3 normal geodes, and decides that today is a perfect day, on Saturday, the 6th of summer, to go and visit Gunther. So she heads out in that very direction. Aubrey realizes that there have been a lot of adventuring days all in a row, and she's almost entirely neglected her friends and love interests in the town. She sees a notice board with a help wanted sign. Somebody wants her to slay some frost jellies in the mines, and she sees that, and she remembers the frost slimes. She figures that what they're calling frost jellies are actually her very familiar frost slimes that she hates now at this point. So seeing that notice puts her at a bit of unease, being that she has to spend this time running around town and talking to people. She's sort of reached the point now. She's past the honeymoon stage of rural life. She has sort of gotten over the fact that this is like a new place and that there are new people that she has to meet. She's sort of gotten over the fact that she needs to spend a lot of energy meeting all these people and making a good impression. She figures at this point she's already made a good impression, and that as a result she does not actually need to place a lot more energy into that. It's not a very healthy worldview, she realizes, but it is sort of true. And so while she's having these thoughts, she goes into Clint's office, has him break open all these geodes. And she sees Lewis there collecting taxes, collecting taxes like an asshole, because she knows that Lewis is a vampire and that he doesn't actually need any money. But she sees him in there and he's collecting taxes anyway, and it sort of puts her off a little bit because she knows full well that he does not need that money, and so seeing him having the goal to collect those taxes sort of pisses her off really, really a lot. So she finds one of the lost books, and it reads The Fisherman, Act 1. Text. What the fuck? Gordy, how do you catch so many fish? For me, it takes forever. And Gordy says, you must make the choice to become a true fisherman, and over time your fishing speed will increase, says Gordy. So you're saying that improving my fishing skill will make me fish faster? Correct. One day you may even learn the secret to creating your very own bobbers, improving your mastery even more. Now, be gone! And that is the end. Here's a book by Marnie. Animals are very sensitive. They like to be pet every day and prefer to eat grass outdoors than dry hay. They don't like being outside in the rain, though. Happy animals produce higher quality products. And Aubrey is entirely certain that she has read that book before, so she's confused about why it's there. She heads over to see the artifacts that she just placed down. She placed down 6 artifacts in a row. She placed down a dwarf scroll number 2, A yellowed scroll of parchment filled with dwarven script. This one's tied with a green ribbon, it says. And what's this? Geminite. Occurs in brilliant clusters. Hematite. An iron-based mineral with interesting magnetic properties, and that for some reason has a sort of light aquamarine color. Wait a second. What? What's that? The fuck? Oh. Okay, she was incorrect. She looks at the bright orange crystal, and it's called orpiment. Hold on a second. Despite its high toxicity, this mineral is widely used in manufacturing and folk medicine, it says. Okay. And then this blue thing is the geminite, and this yellow and silver thing is the hematite. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, she thinks. She looks at the chicken statue, the one that she was particularly interested in. It's a statue of a chicken on a bronze base. The ancient people of this area must have been very fond of chickens, it says. Earth crystal, a resinous substance found near the surface. A resinous material, she thinks. What do I know of, she thinks, that has a resinous material to it? And she thinks back. She tries to imagine what this earth crystal could possibly be. She wonders seriously if maybe it's like some sort of drug, like maybe it's like some sort of crack, but that it's been around so long it's like petrified. It's like petrified crack, and that if you looked a little bit closer at this earth crystal, it would turn out that it's actually like highly addictive and has narcotic properties. So Aubrey thinks about this, and she thinks, you know what, I probably should just stop that train of thought right now, because I don't actually want to be on any kind of FBI watch list or anything like that. Let's just not even think about drugs at all. And so she goes into Pierre's shop and she finds Abigail. I went to the beach last night, after dark. Sometimes you can see strange lights bobbing over the sea, she says. Oh my god, really? Or maybe that was just a dream I had. It doesn't feel real anymore, she says. Well, if that's the case, then it probably was a dream, Abigail. Because that's what always happens when I have dreams. They sort of fade out of existence. They fade out of my mind, she goes on. And it becomes clear over time that those things were never real to begin with. Perfect. Okay. So, Aubrey thinks, I have accomplished everything that I needed to accomplish in town today, so now I shall return home to try to deal with some of this stuff. I have, she goes on, a starfruit seed, a single solitary starfruit seed, and also a very interesting looking piece of furniture. And she's very interested in what this furniture looks like, so she goes straight into her house and she places it down. What is this? What is this? And so she takes it and she puts it right at her bedside. Look at this beautiful crystal, she thinks. Wow, that is a very gigantic crystal, she concludes. And she takes it for granted that the crystal is gigantic, and then she just heads straight outside and throws a whole lot of copper ore into the furnace without looking. Perfect. And then, to avoid getting distracted, she goes back up and attempts to just sort through all of this crap that she now suddenly has in her inventory. Well, how did this, she begin, happen? How did I get all of these things? How did I get this oyster? Actually, she realizes, I should probably keep some of this stuff just in case the Junomas want it. So she holds on to at least one of every single item. Perfect. She decides to put in some iron ore into the furnace this time, as she needs some sprinklers. Okay. What time is it? 4:40 p.m. Perfect. She looks deep into her heart. She tries to learn about the people that she has interacted with lately. And it seems as though she needs to give gifts to various people. She needs to give a gift to Leah, basically. It's 4:40 p.m., she realizes, and so she reaches into her chests and she pulls out a spring onion, a quartz, and 2 dandelions, and heads out in the direction of Leah's house, because she's looking into her heart and she can see that Emily likes her a lot, actually, and she thinks, wait a minute, this wasn't the goal. I wasn't trying to make Emily like me. She only likes me this much because I gave her an amethyst on her birthday, she goes on. The person I really wanted to like me was Leah. So she goes straight to Leah's house. She navigates through her entire property. She looks up in the trees and sees the descendants of those birds that she displaced from their homes. And she can see that they're looking down at her with sort of shady eyes. They know what she did. These birds, they remember. They know that Aubrey had a moment of weakness wherein she just like chopped down their ancestral home and just said a whole lot of unkind things to them. And so these birds realize what she did and they remember. And birds actually, I don't know if you know this, Aubrey thinks to herself, they remember. They have really good memories and they can recognize people's faces, especially like crows and ravens, she thinks. So if these birds were at all related to crows or ravens, she goes on, then there's a good chance that they're never going to forgive me at all. Despite my vow, why, she goes on, don't these birds trust me? She wonders. And so she goes into the wizard's house and she runs up to Rasmodius and he says, beware, you are standing above a potent magical field. I built my hut right here on purpose, you know, he says. Not really understanding this information, Aubrey pulls out a quartz and just like sets it right on the ground, right next to Rasmodius, and looks him in the eyes as she does so. Many thanks. This item has some very interesting properties, he says. And Aubrey just sort of slowly backs away from Asmodeus, and she just keeps glancing down at the quartz that she placed on the ground, and then glancing up at Rasmodius, who's looking and doing sort of a similar thing. Rasmodius is also glancing at the quartz and then glancing up at Aubrey. And so they both just do this for a little while, until finally Aubrey manages to exit his hut, and he is forced to just assume that the conversation is over at that point. Rasmodius he's a nerd, to be sure, because he's a wizard. He's probably nerdy about wizardy stuff, but at the same time, he is also he's also a normal human being. So like he understands social interactions to some degree at least, and when he sees Aubrey slowly backing away from his hut, with shifty eyes, he just has to wonder a little bit to himself if maybe Aubrey is just a little bit mental in the head, kind of like Ron Weasley what Ron Weasley's impression of Hermione was at the beginning of the first movie of Harry Potter. Aubrey thinks back to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and she remembers the scene where Ron Weasley was like being really what's like judgmental and jumping to conclusions about Hermione because he was a young and arrogant. Well, he was a young and insensitive, inexperienced asshole with no social skills whatsoever. He was a kid who didn't know anything, and so he just openly criticized a potential friend, and it made Hermione very upset. This is sort of exactly the same situation that the wizard was remembering when looking at Aubrey, and seeing that she seemed to have like some social problems. Perfect. Okay. Um, like an entire hour after that even happened, Aubrey ends up at the saloon, and she's sort of like she's doing some mental simulations. She's like running back in her head and doing like some simulations of the conversation between her and Rasmodius. And as she does these simulations in her own mind, she sort of looks into Leah's eyes absent-mindedly while she runs circles around Leah, and she's like doing calculus in her head. She's like running array-based Navier-Stokes simulators. She's like doing fluid dynamics in her head. She's like she's her own little fucking supercomputer, kind of like those bats that she hates so much. How they do like their simulations every time she attacks them. And as she sees Leah trying to get away, she just throws this spring onion into her hands. And Leah looks up and she says, "This is a really nice gift. Thank you," she says, being fully aware that she just watched Aubrey run in circles around her for like an entire hour. Leah is a little bit weirded out, but at the same time charmed by Aubrey. Leah does kind of like Aubrey at this point. She likes how Aubrey is sort of on board with the whole introvert thing, because Leah is clearly an introvert, and Aubrey spending so much time thinking to herself in her own mind while running circles around Leah definitely indicated to Leah that Aubrey was an introvert like her. And so now Leah has a little bit more evidence to allow her to make a judgment of Aubrey, and that judgment is that she likes Aubrey. So she says, "The flowing water keeps my house a little bit cooler in summer. I can't tolerate heat very well," she says. "Oh my god. Say no more, Leah," says Aubrey, "because I hate the heat so much. It's the fucking worst." And as Leah leaves, Aubrey runs straight up to Emily and throws a flower at her face. "Thank you. I'm feeling a positive energy from this gift," says Emily. "You're welcome, Emily." "Don't overwork yourself, or you might end up in Harvey's clinic," she says. "Well, actually," Aubrey replies, "that wouldn't be so bad, because I've been trying to spend more time with Maru, and since Maru works in Harvey's clinic," she goes on, "I figure that probably wouldn't be a bad plan, because I think," she goes on, "that Harvey's clinic is like the only place that anybody has any opportunity to talk to Maru, because she doesn't really do anything social. She doesn't really go out to meet people or talk at all. She's she's not so much an introvert as she is a hermit," she concludes. "And Maru probably needs people to go and force her to be social," she concludes. So she goes to sleep and just passes out, and then wakes up on Sunday, the 7th of summer, and she goes straight to the TV and watches The Queen of Sauce. At which point she learns how to make baked fish. Holy crap, amazing! She watches the fortune teller show and finds that the spirits are in good humor once again, and she cannot believe her good fortune. She cannot believe just the stroke of luck that she's had these past few days. So very quickly, in an attempt to get her chores out of the way quickly, she goes into her chests and she picks out a watering can, and she picks out the sprinkler, and she's very careful to pick out all of the things that she needs. She's looking for seeds. She's looking for anything that might need to be added to the farm at all. She finds nothing else, so she heads straight over to the farm. Wait a second. Oh no, those are not ready yet. Okay, perfect. She goes. Here. Yes, that sprinkler should go there. She concludes. Because the sprinklers water the 4 adjacent tiles to them, and that means directly above, below, to the left, and to the right. They do not feed the ones on the diagonal. So Aubrey's trying to imagine her future farm. She's trying to imagine setting up a farm in such a way that she would not have to manually water any of her plants and could just rely entirely on sprinklers to do the entire thing. And she realizes that she knows how to do it. And she knows how to do it in the most efficient way. I mean, honestly, you could accomplish this, she realizes, by simply planting down a sprinkler, hoeing up and planting crops on all of the spots that it waters automatically, and then just tiling that total situation over the entire course of the farm. Though she's wondering now if maybe she could accomplish, if maybe she could just like increase the density of the farm a little bit by like tiling them diagonally. Maybe the pattern created by the sprinkler is actually not so much intended to be tiled. What's the fucking word? Like, okay, Aubrey realizes that she needs to make a demonstration of what she's fucking saying. So imagine she begins that this is the sprinkler, and this, and this are like in a plus sign the spots that are watered by that sprinkler. And then imagine that this is another sprinkler over here, and then its watering areas are right there. However, what if it was like this? What if we put a sprinkler here, and then the 4 tiles that it waters are on either side, like so? Whoops, why did that happen? But then you put the other sprinkler like right here, so that it watered these tiles there. And then let's see here. You put the other sprinkler there. It's possible that if you were to do some sort of diagonal tiling like that, she goes on, that it may be possible to increase the density of plants, she thinks. Because she's a practical woman, she sort of has a head for engineering. She wants to make sure that she gets the most out of her farming arrangements. And she wants to make sure that if she does go to the trouble of setting up an automatic sprinkler system, that it is as efficient as is physically possible. So she's very interested to figure out the actual ideal configuration of sprinklers. Okay, so her plan now was to go into the mines and do some adventuring. So she looks into her chests looking for things to eat, because she knows that if she goes into the mines that she will be forced to eat things in order to survive. So she's looking for things like salmon berries or grapes or maybe like the spiceberry, maybe these cave carrots, maybe some of these fish. But she realizes that she really should be careful. She really should be careful about these plants, because these are spring plants. Most of the things that she has in her in her chests are spring plants, but now that it's summer, those kinds of plants don't grow any longer. So she doesn't really feel comfortable eating them. So, unfortunately, she'll just have to wait and see what other kinds of plants that she gets in the summer that are more renewable. Perfect. Okay. So, at 10:20 a.m. on Sunday the 7th of summer, she heads out straight to the mines, and as she realizes that that is her goal, she sort of remembers all of the things that have happened in the mines. She remembers the horrific ice slimes. She remembers the horrific golems, the horrific bats, the horrific coal sprites. Basically, everything that she's encountered down there has been just the embodiment of Satan, and she is not excited about running into those things again. However, at the same time, she knows that she must do so if she intends to become the greatest adventurer of all time. Frankly, she's not sure who is above her at this point. She's not sure if anyone is, but not actually having access to that information, she figures that it's probably a pretty good idea to just keep exploring, keep adventuring, keep advancing until such determinations can be made. After all, she's not part of the community of adventurers, really. She's been to the Adventurers Guild once, and when she got to the Adventurers Guild, she realized actually that Gil, the guy who just sits in his chair all the time, but who has like a list of monsters for new adventurers to kill, hasn't even heard of those golems. And so Aubrey thinks back to this and wonders, wait a minute, this was kind of suspicious, wasn't it? Why didn't Gil know about the golems? And so she wonders, wait a second, this sounds like exactly the kind of thing that a secret civilization of golems would enforce. She realizes it's possible that these golems are so sinister and so problematic that they managed to bribe Gil into removing them from his monster killing checklist. And the thought of this just fills Aubrey with panic, because if she can't trust the Adventurers Guild, who can she trust? Though for a brief moment she realizes, hey, hang on a second, what if I formed my own Adventurers Guild? With, blackjack and hookers? She wonders, if I made my own Adventurers Guild, then... oh, this area is infested, she realizes. She looks out, she sees a gigantic slime, and is just petrified. She doesn't want to do anything, she doesn't want to try any strategies. All she wants to do is stand here and fend it off, as though nothing in the universe were more important than this. So she goes out of her way just a little bit to control the area, control the slimes in the area, stop them from like circling her, cornering her, that kind of thing. Stop them from ganking her. But honestly, this is pretty much the most horrifying scene that she's ever seen. She's looking out at the area. She's in a green, like, underground cavern, and it seems like this used to be an area that was created for people to hang out in, but has since been infested with slimes, like some sort of ancient dwarvish city, perhaps, or part of one, anyway, that has been long since abandoned and is now infested with slimes. And so she just takes hit after hit from these slimes, and she looks down and she sees that her nails are peeling back away. The nail polish is peeling away as though, like, what the fuck? Oh, what just happened? She looks at a slime. The slime appeared to have a heart above its head for just a moment, and then immediately after that, she saw like a baby slime emerging from its body, and for some reason, it seemed as though that slime had reproduced. And this just is disgusting to her. She really doesn't want to think about how these slimes reproduce. She doesn't want to think about slime children. She doesn't want to think about slime sex. She doesn't want to think about slime reproductive organs, because to her it all just looks like slime. It just looks like all of their bodies, their entire anatomy, everything that they are and that they stand for is just slime, and that there's nothing else. So when she sees them like reproducing, she shudders, because she really does not want to imagine what it would look like for slimes to have sex, or for slimes to give birth, because it seems just like an absolute horrific scene for her to imagine, and she doesn't want to imagine it at all. Holy crap. So, as she struggles to not die while she fights these slimes, she chucks some cave carrots directly down her gullet, and, oh my god, there's so many slimes down here, she realizes. And she just sits here and struggles to stay alive as she swings her sword frantically, trying to kill all of these monstrosities. She doesn't even think that they're ice slimes. These are like darker blue slimes. Um, they're like ocean slimes. They're not so much ice slimes, not so much frozen slimes, as they are liquid slimes, like ocean or lake or river slimes. And she thinks that that is even worse, because these slimes, in her opinion, are presuming to have some affinity with nature in some sort of healthy way. And she's looking at them, and she can see their eyes glowing red, and she's terrified. She really hates seeing them like this. And she really hates the thought that maybe, even a little bit, that these creatures think of themselves as being sentient or good-natured in any sense. It's exactly the kind of mentality that a soldier wants to have when they're fighting their enemies. A soldier will always wants to think that their enemies are just the worst. Uh, Holy crap. She's about to die. And she has no more food. She has to run. She has to run. She has to run. Aubrey, her escape is almost blocked. Holy crap, she leaves the mine at 7 p.m. with 4 out of 115 hit points. She has burned through her entire supply of... Wait a second. She can eat this winter root. But, at this point, she's already run away. And she's pretty sure that that was the only thing that she had anyway. So it wouldn't have helped her that much. Okay. Oh my god. Well, after spending that amount of time in the mines and seeing that infested slime breeding ground, she's just so disgusted. She hates slime so fucking much. And now that she's been forced to imagine slimes reproducing, imagine slimes falling in love with each other, imagine flying slime storks flying across with like slimy knapsacks carrying slime babies. She's just, she hates it. It makes her skin feel all wriggly, and she just hates it. And she really hopes that she will never have to see another room like that again. And she really hopes that she's insane at this point, and that she didn't actually see those giant slime parents. What looked like slime progenitors. Oh my god. Never before did she think that she would have wished to be insane, but now that she has seen that, she really hopes that she's insane, because she doesn't want those things to be real. And she's pretty confident that she's sane, and that makes her upset. So she exits the mines with like 7 health points, and then goes and sees Robin. And in that moment, when she looks at Robin, she realizes that Robin is one of her favorite people, and if anyone could cheer her up, it's Robin. So she goes and straight up to Robin and talks to her. As she heads up to Robin, she realizes that she's limping. She realizes that probably not only are her fingernails like bleeding, they're probably every single one of her fingernails has multiple hangnails at this point. She probably has broken toenails as well at this point. And in addition to that, she also most likely has like matted and greasy, slimy hair. She's pretty sure that her hair is like all tied in knots, and that the slime from that slime pit has gotten into her hair and caused it to like glue together in a big matted pad of hair on top of her head. And she's coming out of the mines, and like she's pretty sure that she can feel this mass of matted hair on the back of her neck just bouncing back and forth on her neck. And as she's going up to Robin, she realizes that Robin can probably tell that she looks like this, but she doesn't really care. She just really, really, really wants to talk to Robin because she knows that if she talks to Robin, she'll feel better. Perfect. So she goes and talks to Robin. I hope Demetrius doesn't blow the house up with those science experiments of his, she says. And as Aubrey hears Robin's soothing voice, hears her talking about things that are in no way like existentially compromising or in any way like disconcerting on a spiritual level, she is just filled with the knowledge that the real world is much better than life in the mines, and that there's no reason for her to despair, because if if Robin if Robin can be worried about things like this, then the world isn't such a bad place after all. And she takes a little bit of solace in the fact that Robin is worried about her husband, whom she loves dearly, um, blowing up the house, which is completely impossible. And so she looks into Robin's eyes, and she feels a little bit like Robin is like a matron figure. She's sort of looking at Robin as though she sort of wants to treat Robin like a mother. And so she listens intently to what Robin has to say. Perfect. I'm not even sure what he's working on, she goes on. I think it has something to do with plants. And so Robin heads back up to her house, and Aubrey turns around. She's almost entirely certain that Robin saw the matted pad of hair attached to her head, but Robin isn't asking any questions, and Aubrey's kind of happy about that. She's sort of glad that she doesn't have to explain herself. She runs into Demetrius and Maru. She doesn't bother talking to Demetrius, but she runs and she makes a beeline straight for Maru, who says, I bet you're growing some interesting crops right now. Dad says a lot of exotic plants grow in the valley this time of year, she says. And Aubrey looks at Maru, and she thinks, you know what? Why don't you just why don't I tell you about it? Like, I'm growing all kinds of stuff, and before she can even get a response from Maru, Aubrey just goes into like a rant about how she's growing these hot peppers, but doesn't even need them, doesn't even want them really. About how she's growing all these blueberries, and the blueberries are just plump and juicy and delicious. And then after a few minutes of describing her plants and describing how much she likes her plants, she looks up at Maru, who's sort of just standing there watching Aubrey with like a serene smile on her face. And Aubrey looks at Maru and she realizes, wait a second. Maru has been letting me talk this entire time. Maybe I should rethink my attitude towards Maru and maybe be a little bit nicer to her, she thinks. So Aubrey considers this as she heads back to her house, and puts away all of the junk that she found in the mines. Perfect. And she just puts it all away, and then, being that it is only 9 p.m., she's not exactly tired yet, but she is looking down at her fingers, and frankly, she realizes that she looked at her fingers before leaving the chasms, before leaving the mines, and they looked pretty bad. But she's looking at them now, and they look even worse. Like they've started bleeding since then, and there's like blood. There's like dried blood crusted around the edges of her fingernails, and she feels a little bit woozy. And so she's had enough. But she's feeling a little bit like she's had a brush with death today, so she needs a little bit of attention. So she runs up to Joan of Arc, pets Joan of Arc lovingly, and Joan of Arc, being a cat, being an excellent pet, meows with affection in return. And so Aubrey goes to sleep and sleeps pleasant sleeps.